Hello learners! Kumusta? How are you today? I hope you're doing great. Welcome to our homeschool class. I am Teacher Michelle, your English 9 teacher. Today, we are officially in the third quarter. So I do hope that you are still eager and excited to learn new sets of lessons. Fasten your seatbelt and enjoy the journey as we begin our discussion that is all about biases and prejudices. Here are our specific objectives for today's lesson. At the end of the video lesson, you are expected to 1. Distinguish bias and prejudice in material being viewed. 2. Perform the performance tasks through differentiated activities. 3. Make realizations about the effects of bias and prejudice in real-life situations. Before we proceed, prepare the following materials to be used in our video lesson. 1. Your activity sheet on English 9. 2. A clean sheet of paper. 3. Ball pen. You can pause this video if you will need more time and press play again if you are done with the activity and when you are ready to proceed to the lesson. Now, are you ready? Let's get started as we travel and explore the world of English. Look at the photos presented. Find out what they reveal about men and women by answering the questions that follow. Number 1. What have you noticed about men and women? Yes, you are correct. Men depicted as a strong father and are the ones who take the laborious work in everyday living while woman is busy doing housework. Number 2. What do they reveal about men and women? Men and women have their own responsibilities and roles in society. Number 3. Should women always be portrayed as doing household chores and men as warriors? Why? No, it can be a different way. Women can also be warriors and men can also do household chores. It does not mean a man is sassy when he does a laundry or something. In a nice perspective, it is showing of being strong and confident of a person. This time, I will give you scenarios. And I want you to think whether this scenario is fair or unfair. Number 1. Most of the crime in Molopolo, Kiblawan, Davao del Sur were usually done by the teenagers living in barangay site. Number 2, posting the negative comment. Pogi nga, retokado naman. In a photo posted by Marlu, also known as Sanderford on social media. On the first scenario, shows these disproportionate weight against one group, which is the teenagers living in Barangay Site doing crime in Pulo-Pulo, Kiblawan, Davao del Sur, and classified as bias. The second scenario shows discrimination, for it tells us an unfavorable opinion and prejudges others, and that's we call prejudice. Now, I want you to find out the message conveyed by the image and answer the following questions afterwards. What are the characters in the image shows? Prejudice or bias for? Yes, the characters in the image shows prejudice. Do you believe that the statements shown by the dialogue show fairness and equality? Well, if your answer is no, then you are good in detecting prejudice. It is correct because the dialogue in the image shows unfairness and inequality. Was there a time in your life when you are caught yourself prejudging others? When? I want you to write your experience on your paper. Now, look at the following word web. Classify the words inside the arrow and tell which words that could associate with bias and prejudice. The words associated with bias are favoritism, one-sided, unfair, inclination. For the word prejudice, isolation, rejection, wrong judgment, and indifferent. To further explain our topic for today, let me discuss about the meaning of bias. Bias is a tendency to lean in a certain direction, either in favor of or against a particular thing. To be truly biased means to lack a neutral viewpoint on a particular topic. Somewhere along the line, bias took on a negative connotation.
For example, 1,
Panglalaki lang ang basketball.
2,
Dito ka lang makakabili niyan.
3,
Ang nakapunta lang sa Israel ang mapupunta sa langit.
If you're biased towards something, then you lean favorable towards it. You tend to think positive of it. Meanwhile, if you are biased against something, then you lean negative against it. You tend to think good for it. Another example. Number 1. In other Christian sectors, the preacher position is only given to males and not to females. Number 2. Sectarian schools only accept students who share the same religious beliefs. Number 3. Some churches don't accept women who wear pants instead of dresses or skirts during their services. In a given example, a certain group of people is given favor against the other. In number 1, males are given power or authority than females. Number 2, students are interested to study in the school but don't share the same religion. Can't be admitted. Number 3, women who attend church services aren't allowed to go. They don't wear the prescribed dress code for the said service. Have you ever encountered where your thoughts are not allowed due to a person who is related to a certain person? How did you react? I will leave you that momentous event. Another term that causes confusion is called prejudice. It is sometimes interchanged with the word bias. Now, let us define the word prejudice. Prejudice is a preconceived opinion or feeling toward a person based solely on their affiliation with a group. This feeling may be translated into action by discriminating against the person or members of the target group. An individual may be prejudiced against others based on the factors such as race, age, gender, sexual orientation, class status, religion, nationality, and amongst other things.
For example, 1. Bakit ka nagva-volleyball? Pambabae lang yan. Diba? 2. Is he an Ilocano? Matipid siya. 3. Bisaya ba siya? Yuck!
These examples clearly shows that there are prejudices going on. The statement prejudged female individuals, Ilocano, and Bisaya basically because of the race, nationality, and orientation. Even though these people don't done anything wrong yet, but because of their background, people tend to prejudge them and eventually discriminate them. This is very common in our society, even at this very present time. As of this moment, I will show you a short video clip featuring a Filipina actress who claims that it's not right to put a label on anyone.
Now, let us answer the questions about the video clip that you have just watched. Number 1. What is the label attached to the woman in the video? Yes, you are correct. The label attached to the woman in the video is malandi or a woman of the world. Number 2. Is it fair to attach labels to someone? No, it isn't fair because you judge without adequate prior knowledge. Number 3. When you put label on someone, are you also being biased? Sometimes, labeling helps in remembering a person, especially if he or she has qualities or traits that are different from other people. To remember them and easily identify them, you can give them label. Be sure not to advertise it to others, because by doing so, you are entertaining the course of being biased.
That is all about prejudice and bias. Now, let's have an activity. Examine the given images closely and identify which image shows bias and prejudice. Number 1. Very good! The answer is bias. Number 2. You are correct! Prejudice. Number 3. Awesome! Prejudice. Number 4. Fantastic! It's bias. Number 5. Excellent! It's prejudice. Now, let us enumerate what you have learned from the lesson. Let us be guided by the questions. Number 1. What is bias? Bias is when we lean towards something or someone without any logical reasoning or thinking. Number 2. What is prejudice? Prejudice is a preconceived opinion or feeling toward a person based solely on their affiliation with a group. Number 3. How can bias, prejudice affect one's personality? Bias and prejudice can really affect one's personality. Once a person is being biased and prejudiced to someone, it can result to low self-esteem and can create emotional problems to someone who is affected. Number 4. Why do some people judge others? People judge others because of their differences. Differences on their age, gender, sexual orientation, class status, religion, nationality, and amongst other things. Number 5. Can biases and prejudices be avoided? How? Yes! As a human being, biases and prejudices can be avoided by choosing our words carefully and always be aware of our decisions towards something or someone. This time, you are going to choose one performance task among the 4 activities that I'm going to present. A rubric is shown as a guide in doing the activity you choose.
First activity is beyond the headline. What you're going to do is think of professions which show biases and prejudices in terms of sex and gender, and explain why these professions show biases and prejudices through reporting. You can choose your output on 2 different options. 1. Video yourself and send it on my email ad or messenger. Or 2. Write your report on a piece of paper and pass it to me. Second activity is a life on canvas. Draw an editorial cartoon about prejudice and bias. You can choose your output on two different options. 1. Video yourself showing your illustration and explain your thoughts and ideas about your output. Or 2. Pass your output and write on a whole sheet of paper your explanation about your editorial cartoon. Third activity, play me a role. Create a mini dialogue showing your personal experiences of prejudice or bias. You can include your family members to be part of your mini dialogue. You can choose your output on two different options. 1. Video of your mini dialogue, or write on a whole sheet of paper the script of your mini dialogue. Fourth activity, write out loud. Make a poem about biases and prejudices. You can choose your output on two different options. 1. Video yourself reading the poem you've made. Or 2. Write your poem on a whole sheet of paper with a dash of creativity on it. Here is the rubric for your activity.
Remember, to avoid prejudice and bias, you have to be sensitive to others. You have to understand the joy, pain, situation, and where they are coming from. In your subject, edukasyon sa pagpapakatao, kayo ay tinuruan kung paano maging sensitibo, patas, at hindi mapaglamang sa kapwa-tao. Ang may kinikilingan at kapinsalaan ay dapat nating iwasan upang hindi makabuo ng anumang problema sa ating kapwa-tao at lipunang politikal. Maging maingat tayo sa ating paghusga or prudence dahil ito ay nagbibigay liwanag at gumagabay sa lahat ng mabuting asal o ugali. Ayon kay Santo Tomas de Aquino, ang gawi ng maingat na paghuhusga ay ang pagtingin sa lahat ng panig, pag-alala sa nakaraan, pag-unawa sa kasalukuyan, at pagtanaw sa hinaharap upang makakalap ng datos bago isagawa ang anumang pagpapasya.
Test 1. Identification. Direction. Determine whether the given scenario shows bias or prejudice. 1. Some Muslims are assumed to be terrorists and eventually being discriminated. 2. Jews during the period of Hitler were sentenced to death because Hitler himself despised Jewish people. 3. Black dogs are more friendly than brown dogs. 4. A teacher who gives good rating to her student who shares the same religious belief with her. 5. Kathy doesn't like Brian because he has red hair. Test 2. Short essay. Directions. Give at least 2 examples of personal experiences that you experience or witness on bias and prejudice and how you handle on it. Here is the rubric for your short essay.
Wow! What a fantastic learning we have today! That only means that you are still eager to learn new concepts. This time, for your assignment.
Assignment. On a clean sheet of paper, write 1 good act and motivating words per item that you would do or say to avoid biases and prejudices in this pandemic time, especially to people who are 1. Unenrolled students. 2. Unemployed workers. 3. Online sellers. 4. COVID-19 victims. 5. Lockdown of Pinoy workers.
Congratulations for actively engaging in each of the activities prepared for you. Before we're going to end, let me share to you a famous adage. Do not judge the book by its cover. It means that the quality or character of someone or something cannot be judged by just looking at them. You should know them better to avoid hurting other feelings and chaos. Once again, this is Teacher Michelle, your English 9 teacher, signing off.